The day Lyra lost the last piece of her grandmother, the auction house was cold and smelled of old wood and desperation. She stood at the back of the room, her hands trembling as she clutched the velvet box containing her grandmother's necklace. It was the only thing she had left, a delicate silver chain with a pendant shaped like a crescent moon, embedded with a single sapphire that seemed to glow with its own light. "Lot 47, the auctioneer called out. "A silver necklace with sapphire pendant. Starting bid, 50 gold. Lyra's heart shattered with each word. Her father's gambling debts had consumed everything. This necklace was supposed to be hers, passed down through generations. Her grandmother had made her promise to never sell it. But promises didn't pay debt collectors who threatened prison. 50 gold. 60. 75. Lyra closed her eyes, fighting tears. 5,000 gold. The room went silent. Lyra's eyes snapped open. That was more than 10 times the necklace's worth. 5,000, going once, going twice, sold to the gentleman in the back. Lyra turned to see who had bid such an insane amount, but the crowd was too thick. By the time she collected the heavy purse of gold and signed the papers, the mysterious buyer had vanished. All that remained was a sealed letter with her name written in elegant script. Her hand shook as she opened it. "Miss Ashwood, the necklace will be returned to you in 3 days at the Moonstone Inn. Come alone at sunset. Wear it when you arrive. You'll understand everything then. A friend." Lyra stared at the words, her mind racing. Someone had paid 5,000 gold just to return it. It made no sense, unless her grandmother's warnings were true, unless the necklace really was more than just jewelry. The 3 days crawled by torturously. Lyra paid her father's debts, set aside money for their future, and spent every spare moment rereading her grandmother's journals, the ones written in a strange language she'd never been able to decipher. But now, knowing someone wanted the necklace badly enough to spend a fortune, she looked closer, and she found things she'd missed. Drawings of a grand castle, references to Moonstone blood and the old magic, and a letter sealed with wax, addressed to her. "My precious girl," it began. "If you're reading this, then someone has found you. Our family is not what you think. We are Moonstones, the oldest werewolf bloodline, keepers of ancient magic. I fled to the human territories to protect your mother. But you carry the mark, Lyra. The crescent moon on your shoulder blade is proof. You are the last heir. Trust whoever comes for you, but make them prove their intentions first. The necklace will protect you. Never remove it. With all my love, grandmother." Lyra's hand flew to her shoulder blade, feeling the birthmark she'd always dismissed. It was warm to the touch, almost pulsing. On the 3rd day, she dressed carefully, fastened the necklace around her throat, and walked to the Moonstone Inn as the sun began to set. The innkeeper directed her to a private room on the 2nd floor. Lyra climbed the stairs, her heart hammering, and knocked. "Come in," a deep voice called. She opened the door and froze. The man sitting by the window was the most striking person she'd ever seen. Tall, powerfully built, with dark hair and silver eyes that seemed to glow faintly. Everything about him screamed, barely contained power. But what shocked her most was the sadness in those silver eyes when they landed on her necklace. "You wore it," he said quietly. "Thank you." "Who are you?" Lyra demanded, staying near the door. "Why did you buy my necklace just to return it?" "My name is Dorian Silvercrest." He stood slowly, keeping his distance, as if sensing her fear. "And I didn't buy it to return it. I bought it to find you." "That makes no sense." "It does when you understand that necklace has been lost for 60 years, that it belonged to the last Moonstone Queen before she disappeared." His silver eyes held hers, "that it's been passed down through your family because you are her direct descendant. the last living heir of the Moonstone bloodline. Lyra's hand went to the necklace protectively. My grandmother's letter said something similar, but that doesn't explain who you are or what you want from me. I'm the Alpha King of the Northern Territories, Dorian said quietly, and I've been searching for a Moonstone heir for 7 years, because without one, my kingdom is dying. He gestured to the chair across from him. Please, let me explain. Then you can decide if you believe me. Lyra sat, though every instinct screamed to run. Dorian told her everything, about how Moonstone magic had protected the werewolf kingdoms for millennia, how when the bloodline vanished, the barriers keeping dark creatures at bay began to fail, how people were dying because the ancient magic was fading. I need you to perform a binding ceremony, he said, to restore the barriers, but I won't lie to you about the cost. It would bind you to the kingdom permanently. You'd become part of the magic itself. You're asking me to give up my freedom, my life. I'm asking you to save thousands of lives by sacrificing your own choices, and I hate myself for it. Dorian's voice cracked slightly, but I've tried everything else. You're the last hope. Lyra studied him, the exhaustion in his face, the guilt, the desperation. Why should I trust you? She asked. You're a stranger asking me to give up everything. You shouldn't trust me, not yet. Dorian reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet pouch, which is why I'm giving you this. It contains 3,000 gold, more than half of what I paid for your necklace. Take it. Go home. Live your life. I won't force you or manipulate you. Then why give me the money? Because you sold your most precious possession to save your father. That kind of selflessness is rare. You deserve to be free of that burden whether you help me or not. He set the pouch on the table between them. I'm staying at this inn for 1 week. If you decide to help, come back. If not, the gold is yours anyway. No strings attached. Lyra stared at him, completely thrown. You're just letting me leave? The magic only works through willing sacrifice. Forcing you would be pointless. Papa and Dorian's smile was sad. Besides, if I've learned anything in 7 years of searching, it's that the right person will choose to help because it's who they are, not because I trapped them into it. If this story has you hooked, subscribe now, because Lyra's choice is about to change everything. Lyra took the gold and left. She should have felt relieved, free. Instead, she felt haunted. She visited her father, gave him money to start fresh. She tried to return to her normal life, but everywhere she went, she saw things differently. Children playing, families laughing, people living peaceful lives without knowing how close they were to losing everything. On the 5th day, she returned to her grandmother's journals and finally found a passage she could read. The burden of Moonstone blood is that we feel the land's pain as our own. We cannot ignore suffering when we have the power to stop it. That is both our curse and our gift. Lyra touched the birthmark on her shoulder. It had been warm ever since she'd read her grandmother's letter, pulsing, like something was waking up inside her. She thought about Dorian's exhausted face, the guilt in his eyes, the way he'd let her go even though it probably cost him everything. On the 6th day, she packed a small bag and returned to the Moonstone Inn. Dorian answered her knock immediately, as if he'd been waiting by the door. Hope and fear warred in his silver eyes. I'll do it, Lyra said quietly. I'll perform the ceremony, but I have conditions. Anything. My father gets to visit whenever he wants. I want a library, a real one. And, she took a breath, I want time. Time to understand what I'm becoming. Time to know you before I bind myself to your kingdom. I won't do this blind. Dorian's relief was palpable. Yes, to everything. We'll take it slow. You'll have all the time you need. When do we leave? Tomorrow, if you're ready. Lyra touched her necklace. I don't think I'll ever be ready, but that's not a reason to say no. The palace was overwhelming, massive, ancient, beautiful, and terrifying. But Dorian kept his word. He gave her space, time, answers to every question. He introduced her slowly to court life, never pushing, always patient. And Lyra began to understand the weight he'd carried alone for so long. The binding ceremony happened under the full moon 2 weeks later. Lyra stood in an ancient stone circle, speaking words in the old language Dorian had taught her. Power surged through her body, bright and wild. She felt herself connecting to every part of the kingdom. The barrier snapped back into a place with such force that everyone gasped. When the light faded, Lyra's eyes carried a faint silver glow. She was no longer just Lyra Ashwood. She was Lyra Moonstone, protector of the kingdom. Over the following months, something unexpected happened. As Lyra learned to control her magic, as she and Dorian spent time together rebuilding what had been broken, they fell in love. It wasn't instant. It wasn't destiny or fate. It was choice, made every day, to see each other, to support each other, to share the burden neither could carry alone. When Dorian proposed, not out of duty, but because he couldn't imagine his future without her, Lyra said yes before he finished asking. Their wedding was the grandest celebration the kingdom had seen in generations. And years later, when travelers asked about the Moonstone Queen, they told this story. A girl who sacrificed everything to save strangers. A king who let her choose freely, even when it meant losing everything. A necklace that brought them together. They told the truth Lyra had learned, that the greatest power comes not from magic or bloodlines, but from choosing to give when you have little, to sacrifice when you could run, to love when it's terrifying. The auction house where Lyra sold her necklace still stands, and on quiet nights, people swear they can see a silver glow from the spot where a goodbye became the beginning of a legendary love story. You've just witnessed how one choice changed an entire kingdom. Want more stories of hidden heirs, destined love, and courage? Subscribe to Alpha Moon Tales. Your next epic journey awaits.